Amen. Thank you. Please join me standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Once again, let me welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. Today is Monday, July 26th. At this time, let me call to order the town council meeting for tonight. Time is 7:01. With the 6 of the 7 council members present, we have quorum. Mr. Freeman is absent today. The first item is announcement pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415. The mayor, council, and staff may report on the following items: expression of thanks, congratulations or condolences, information about holiday schedules, recognition of individuals, reminders about upcoming town council events, information about community events, and announcements involving imminent threat to public health and safety. Council, are there any announcements?
On Wednesday, the town will hold the opening ceremony for Whataburger, 10 o'clock. Invite the town and all the members to be present if you can do so, 10 o'clock Wednesday morning.
Susan, you want to talk about the cert when you get a chance? Yeah. Council, any other comments, announcements? Okay, if not, I'm going to turn it over to Susan.
Yes, so we did, the chief, where is he? Chief Kendrick has worked really hard with CERT to get our CERT program up and running for the town of Sunnyvale. This last Saturday, we had our first training class here at the town. Chief stayed all day and helped train that class. And then that class, the second session of that class will be next Saturday, I think it's the 31st. So we're really excited about that. And we had a great group of volunteers who were here who are going to be part of our permanent CERT team. So thank you to everybody who came out for that. And thank you for the chief. Also, just want to remind everyone that it is the season of boards and commissions. So if you haven't already put in an application to serve on a board and commission, we really hope that you'll do that. And not only do we have the boards and commissions, but we draw upon that list to put people on our committees as well. So we have several standing committees, including our events subcommittee, our committee that's looking at CIP projects. We have a committee that's looking at the potential for a new library/rec center. We have a committee working on downtown. We have an excellence in local government committee. So we have a lot of citizen committees that really have input into what things we bring forward to the council. So we hope people will volunteer and sign up to serve on a committee or a board. And then the final thing is we are implementing a new event. It's a new resident event. And so we're in the planning stages on that, but keep your eyes out. We're going to market it through flyers and social media, and that people come here to set up utility appointments. And we're also going to get the flyers to the HOA presidents and realtors who know people who are new to our community. So we're excited about that event as well. Thank you.
Lots of things happening in town. So Susan and the chief, thank you so much for promoting CERT. I know that's been maybe a year or two effort. I'm glad to see many of our residents turning up. This is really a good event where we get involved at the voluntary basis if and when something emergency happens. So this is the emergency response community team, I think, task. Yeah. Anyway, anything else for any other staff? Okay, moving on to the public forum. At this time, members of the audience may come forward and speak to the council on any matters other than legal matters or personal matters or items on the agenda. If you are calling in via Zoom, you may raise your hand. Anyone would like to come forward? Yes, ma'am, come on in. other than agenda, outside the agenda. Yes, sir. Mr. Thomas. Good evening, sir. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Walt Thomas, 477 East Fork Road, Sunnyvale.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I appreciate everything y'all do. And I understand you're supposed to always compliment people before you criticize anybody. So I wanted to say that. No, y'all may have already solved my problem. I don't know, but I've been driving down at some of our our roads and noticing right-of-ways that are looking pretty bad. And I consider it an embarrassment for Sunnyvale. And I think we're better than that. And I know some places the town maintains them. Some places they expect the adjoining property owner to maintain it. But there's some places that obviously are not getting maintained by anyone right now anyway. And I think that was on your work session prior to this, maybe. So y'all may already have a solution. So I may be just wasting my breath up here. But is a little embarrassing for somebody to come into Sunnyvale and see some of the right of way. And somebody's grown up about as high as I am. And anyway, that's not that I'm criticizing. I'm sure y'all were well on it, already on the problem, and had your best people on it. So thank you very much.
You're sharing the information. We appreciate it. Mr. Thomas, I'm going to ask that staff do a very good job trying to keep up with everything, but there may be, but again, we have what 6,500 eyes and ears, right? Pairs of eyes and ears. So if you don't mind, send a note to Susan or to myself. If things not getting done, we'll be happy to take a look at it. We appreciate you coming and talking to us. Ms. Rachel, do you have something for me? Okay. Anyone else like to come forward? Erica, anyone? You said Joseph? Erica, okay.
No
Erica.
hands raised.
No hands raised. So I'm going to close the public forum. I thought I saw Joseph. Oh, Joseph at the back. Sorry, Joseph. I saw you on there. Okay, moving on to consent agenda items. Council, we had 2 items on the consent agenda. Item number 4 and 5. Would anyone like to remove either of the items from the consent agenda? Okay, if not, can I have a motion to approve consent agenda items 4 and 5?
Motion to approve items 4 and 5 as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Clark. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Eldridge to approve agenda item 4 and 5. All in favor signify. All opposed, the motion passed 6-0. Mr. Freeman is absent. Moving on to the public hearing portion of the agenda, item number 6. Hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act upon the 2020 Consumer Confidence Report, Water Quality Report. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hey, Mayor, Council. Every year we have to come and do a public hearing for required CCR, our water quality report. This year's is no different. It's the same as our previous years. It's unremarkable. We don't have any violations or anything of note to report, but I'll be happy to answer any questions about it that I can. It's a little more robust this year. I think North Texas gave us a lot of information, so we included all of it.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to open up for public comments. If anyone from the members of the audience would like to come forward and speak to the council on this item, you may do so. If you are joining us via Zoom, you may raise your hand. No one is coming forward from the chamber. Erica, anyone raising their hand?
No hands raised.
No hands raised, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Council, are there any questions for staff or discussions on item number 6?
I have one question for you. In the past years, we seem to have a lot of chlorine effect in certain parts of the year. It seems like it's been less lately. Is that due to the increased service we're getting from North Texas?
I think it's due to increased usage. So we move more water through the lines. It doesn't set as long. You know, the water age doesn't get as long. So just by people moving in, increases the flow. Chlorine doesn't have to set the water doesn't set as long, so the chlorine lasts with a shorter amount of time.
Are there additional questions or discussion on item number 6? Okay, if not, can I have a motion to approve item number 6 as presented?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Eldred and approved, second by Allen, to approve item number 6 as presented. All in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 6-0. Moving on to the discussion and action item portion of the agenda. Item number 7, discuss, consider, and act upon authorize the town manager to implement an optional employee prepaid pre-65 retiree health coverage benefits. Would that be you, Ms. Sherry? Good evening, Ms. Haynes.
It's actually me, sir.
Okay, Ms. Guthrie, good evening.
We'll tag team it. So this is just an item I brought to the council's attention that we're in the process of renewing our health insurance benefit. We'd shared with the council that as part of the budget, our overall cost for health insurance is going to go down 3.5% to the town this year. However, as part of that renewal, it was brought to our attention that we did not have the pre-65 health insurance coverage option where an employee can buy in when they retire and pay their premium to stay on the health insurance. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention and ask the council for authority for us to renew our health benefits again at the 3.5% decrease in premium, but with the added benefit of allowing retired health employees to buy into the group plan. Right now, there would be no outward cost to the town council or to the town. However, there is an impact to the balance sheet. It would be considered a liability in the future. We really don't have an estimated amount of that. It would just depend upon the health and the age of the people who might elect to do it or not do it. So we don't have an estimated amount at this point about what that liability could look like in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. And this was discussed in detail during the workshop also, which was an open event. I'm going to open up for public comments. If anyone from the members of the audience would like to come forward and speak to the council on item number 6, you may do so. If you are joining us via Zoom, you may raise your hand. No one is coming forward from the chamber. Erica, anyone raising their hands?
No hands raised.
No hands raised. We're going to close the public comments. Council, are there any questions or discussion on item number 7? Mr. Allen?
Mayor, I think it's worthy just to go back over some of the discussion items that we talked about. I wrote a few down. I just want to get clarity to be sure we're on record as to the topics we've talked about. That this extension would stop at age 65 for an employee. Currently, we pay for the employee's health insurance for them as an individual, and they pay for their family and spouse. And when they retire, whatever date they retire, they would then pay for their own insurance. The town wouldn't be paying for that. Third, well, I can't read my third one, so I'll go to my fourth one. Yeah, right. If this were to pass, would this apply to anyone that's retired recently, or would it only be open to those people that are still on and then retire?
My understanding is still on and then retire. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to retroactively go back to people who had previously retired because the benefit wasn't available at that time. It would only be for people who retired in the future. And I think usually our TML switches over on January 1st. Is that correct, Sherry?
That's correct.
And I guess my last question is just for the record, could you explain what the possible liability would be to the town if you can break that down? I know we don't have an exact number, but if we can just get on the record what the potential real cost liability might be to the town.
The cost to the potential cost to the town would be related to the additional individuals staying on our census, causing the benefits to go up possibly, and the premiums, to go up, depending on their utilization. So we would need to do some kind of actuarial study in order to come up with that cost for you. to see what the true liability is going to be. I think it would be something lesser than, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in the very beginning, but we don't have anybody that it applies to at this point in time.
That answer your question, Mr. Allen?
It does, thank you.
Are there additional questions or discussion right number 7? Okay, if none, I call for a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to adopt item number 7.
Motion made by Mr. Allen to approve item number 7 as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Clark. Everyone heard the motion? Are there additional discussions? All in favor signify. Motion passed 6-0. Mr. Freeman is absent. Yes, ma'am?
If I could interrupt you, we had a citizen that wants to speak on item number 5, and since it is the first reading, I spoke to the town attorney, and she said to allow her to speak since we do have a second reading, that we could hear her.
Say that one more time to me.
So we have a citizen who wants to speak on item number 5, which was on the consent agenda.
Okay.
So I consulted with Brenda, and she said to allow her to speak since it's the first reading, and it could be considered during the second reading.
You'll recall that the statute requires that the public be allowed to comment before the council takes action.
Okay.
You didn't know that the item she wanted to speak on was on the consent agenda, but because it was the first reading and no final action has been taken, I would encourage you to allow her to speak now.
Okay.
And then when that item comes up for second reading, then take additional public comment at that point in time.
So do we need to take it off the consent agenda now? Or?
No, you've already passed the consent agenda item. I would let her speak to the item now and take that into consideration before a final vote on the second reading.
Okay. So for the legal counsel, I'm going to open up. So I'm just going to open up for public comments at this time, right, Ms. Brenda?
Yes.
Not just for one person, anyone else can speak to it, right? Okay. We're going to open up for public comments, right, number 5. If you'd like to come forward and speak to the council, you may do so. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Thank you. My name is Lori Sparhawk, and I live at 475 North Collins Road. Been a resident since 1986, and I'm a member of the Garden Club. I'm here tonight with our president of the Garden Club, Sylvia Carter, and Barbara Klein. And we really wanted to discuss the Ordinance 2114 that you're going to be voting on in the future. First of all, I want to thank the staff for letting us have the use of the town facilities over the years. The media here obviously is phenomenal, and the town hall is beautiful, and we've appreciated it very much when our guests and our speakers come to give presentations for the Garden Club. But I want to give a little background about the Garden Club before I go on. If you're not familiar with it, but most of you are probably really familiar with the Garden Club. But I want to tell you that we're 60 members now of both men and women. We share a love for gardening, the Sunnyvale Garden Club. They're members of District 10, the Dallas Council of Garden Clubs, the South Central region of the Texas Garden Clubs, and the National Council of Garden Clubs. We are now celebrating our 60th year as the Sunnyvale Garden Club, and we organized in 1960. We are a philanthropic 501c3 organization. We maintain 3 gardens on Town East Road as you enter from the town off Beltline. We also maintain the gardens over by the library and the fire department. We have about 7 planters that surround the library and the fire department. And we also maintain 2 areas in front of our school administration building. We work with the school district and we decorate for the graduation ceremonies while also providing scholarships for graduating students. We have worked with the school on gardening projects, and you may have noticed our fabulous blue bonnet presentation that we have off of Collins and Hounslow Boulevard. With the help of our students, teachers, and fire department, we had a blue bonnet stomp where we planted thousands of seeds. We are consistently providing the senior citizens of the Long Creek Assisted Living Center with cards, gifts, food, and help with their gardening projects as needed. It doesn't stop there. At each meeting, we take up a collection for the members of Sharing Life, which is a local food bank. We have given thousands of dollars to this organization over the years. We've provided food and entertainment venues for some of our lower income residents. We also want to mention that our club is recognized by the State Garden Club as gold standing member, and we win awards for our work and our studies throughout the year in the state. Okay, I'm going to get to the point. As we read this ordinance, we see that you have considered us as a partner, which we greatly appreciate. However, our concern is that we cannot afford the $150 cleaning fee for each of our meetings. And I'm wondering, is that $150 fee for each meeting that we have? Is that correct?
As it's written now, yes, and it's just the direct costs when we hire the janitor to come in and clean up afterwards. That's what the cost is based upon.
Okay. We have potentially 7 meetings in the 2021-22 year, which adds up to $1,050 if we're going to be taking that out of our budget. For a philanthropic, low-budget club that struggles every year for fundraising activities, that's a lot of money for us. So we please ask you to consider extending the same courtesies that you've given our group over the years, as our activities certainly benefit this community. We'll clean up the room, we'll set up the chairs, the tables, take out the trash, do whatever you want, if we can just maybe have the same wonderful benefits that we had before this ordinance came about for consideration. Thank you very much. I hope you can consider something for us.
Thank you, Ms. Laurie. Anyone else like to come forward and speak to the council? So, okay, if no one else coming forward, anyone is raising their hands? So I'm going to close the public comments on this one. Brenda, I need some guidance here. This was a consent agenda item, so how do we move forward with this one?
Mayor, you don't need to go back and reconsider. You've already approved the consent agenda.
Okay.
So if any of you desire to communicate with the city manager regarding this ordinance between now and the next meeting, you're free to do that individually, but not, again, discuss it as a council unless you want to reopen agenda item number 5. But you have already approved the consent agenda.
Okay. Understood. Thank you. I'm sorry again?
You'll vote again at the
Yeah.
next meeting on the second reading.
Okay.
So the ordinance is not in effect yet.
Okay. So there is time to discuss that in the next meeting.
There is, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry, for coming and talking to us. Appreciate you. And others also. Appreciate it. We do appreciate our garden club. You all do a great job. Appreciate that. Okay. Moving on to item number 8, discuss and consider the certified estimated property values from the Dallas Central Appraisal District for fiscal year 2021 to 2022.
Thank you, Council.
Ms. Haynes?
Thank
Good
you.
evening, ma'am.
Yes, in accordance with the town charter and the Texas state laws, we are presenting the certified appraisal roll that we received from the Dallas Central Appraisal District on July 22nd. The property values came in at 9.30% higher than last year, and our taxable value is at $1.5 billion this year compared to $1.4 billion last year. The market value of new construction equaled approximately $56 million. At this time, over the next few days, we'll be going back and taking this information and calculating the tax rate for you and proposing tax rates on our next meeting. At this point in time, you do not have to make any kind of vote on the appraisal district's certified roll.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes.
Thank you.
Let me open up for public comments. If anyone from the members of the audience would like to come forward and speak to the council, you may do so. If you are joining us via Zoom, you may raise your hand. No one is coming forward from the chamber. Anyone raising their hand?
No, sir.
No hands raised, so I'm going to close the public comments. Council, you heard there are no actions to be taken, but are there any discussions or questions on this agenda? Okay, if none, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to invite Mr. Brian Creed to talk about item number 9, present an update on the street maintenance demise plan. Good evening, Mr. Creed.
Thanks, Mayor. I think we have a slideshow.
Oh, you're getting fancy.
Okay. On March 8th, the council approved resolution 21-9 adopting a street maintenance plan. We were to repair and replace the red street segments based on the recommendation from the geotechnical data to the town council during the February 22nd meeting, a work session. We went through the streets and made some red, some yellow. We're going to spend the remaining funds after we address the red streets on the yellow segments, beginning with Town East Boulevard. Next slide. The next slide is the spreadsheet that has the recommendations and the totals on it. I can't hardly see what that is. It's just in there for reference of how we determined which streets we were going to address and the order we were going to attack them based on you guys' recommendation. Next slide. The council identified $3.9 million. And we organize these funds into 4 phases based on the timing of their availability and the line projects and available funding. Some of the funding came in at different times. And then the phase 4 is pending approval of a COG grant for the old PSA for Trip Road. Next slide. Okay. We bid out the panel repairs for Clay Road and the Fritz Drain underlane. And they came back pretty far outside of our budget. So all the bids were rejected. And June 28th of 21, we revised the scope to the 20 worst panels and to better align with the budget. And we've also kind of did it in the middle of Clay Road where that worst water pumping occurs. We're going to put a French underdrain, which I'll show you here in the next slide. So the revised RFP has been released and it's live now. This kind of just shows the middle of Clay on the top portion. When you go down closer to the middle of Clay, right before the curb, you can see where we're going to install the underdrain there. We see a lot of pumping in the low area. Clay kind of goes to a valley and kind of comes back up. And when it rains, our thought process is that it pumps a lot of water through those cracks. And it didn't have to rain. It could just be wet. So we know there's a lot of water under there. So Lyle's designed this French drain system we're going to try to put under this side and tie it into our existing storm drain, hoping that will keep the ground a little more solid and not have the remaining problems with the cracking. And
Brian, did you say pump?
Yeah, pump is the term. So what I mean is, you have the concrete panels sitting next to each other. And when those trucks go over it, you can literally watch the panels move and water will squirt up between those cracks shooting out. Understood. And that motion and movement tells you that there's the sub-base is not stable. It's sitting on the water. So we're trying to alleviate some of that by adding the French drains. And they're going to do the subgrade work as well. And then we identified a few more panels going on down.
Is there engineering involved with that one, design of it, or is that can be all part of the construction?
It's all part of the construction. Lyle put that in there, and I can let him speak to that if he wishes more on the French drains. I mean, I'm just assuming it's just going to be perforated pipe under there that's tied into the existing storm drains on the edge of the road.
Do you need to connect it? Do you need to?
The contractor will put it all in and connect it to the existing storm drain. You good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next slide. The other RFP was the asphalt streets. So what we did was we combined all of them.
Brian, can we go back one more time? Sorry.
Yes, sir. Go back to the.
So we said 10 worst panel, 10 or some number.
20.
20. let me ask you, is that going to do it for you? Or is the Clay Road is going to be, when it's a worse, that means there's just
I
other
think
stuff?
I think we're going to have to go back and revisit this road. We're going to try to take care of some of the spalling with we bought some epoxy resin that overlays in the spalling, and it will harden. We've used some of that over on Eagles Crest and Morning Fog, and it seems to be working pretty good. So we're going to try that on clay on some of those panels to try to make them last a little bit longer for us.
But the traffic is very different than on Morning
It,
Fog versus
it
Clay
is.
Road,
It
right?
absolutely is. The vendor's telling us that it's strong enough to handle it. So we're going to test that theory.
Yes, sir.
All right. The asphalt streets are the next RFP. So we've combined everything of the remaining red roads. So we got Town East, which is East Fork to Poly. It's complete replacement. Town East, Tower Place to Collins. Now this is repair, and it's not the entire stretch. There are various segments through there where that shoulder is failing. And so that's in the RFP for them to cut and replace those sections. They are going to do subgrade work. It's not just an overlay. They're going to peel out the bad spots and replace those sections like we did farther down. There's a section down here close to Collins we've already done. You guys may have already seen. East Fork, Glory to Town East. That's a complete replacement, subgrade up. And Long Creek, Clay to Larkin is a complete replacement. That's a short stretch, but it's in terrible shape. And then Poly, Barnes Bridge to East Fork is a complete replacement. Gloria Town East to the end of Gloria is just an overlay. That road generally doesn't see a lot of traffic, and it just has a few houses on it, and we think that'll do just fine. And then North Collins trip to Redstone is also just an overlay, pending phase 2 coming anyways. It didn't make sense to rebuild that road completely. Alliance Geotechnical Group has done cores on our roads and collected traffic counts to provide a prescription for these road replacements. And the RFP for this one, like I said, it is live on the website right now. Hopefully we get some bids pretty quick. Let me see what they look like.
Brian, tell me again, the set of these sets of roads, are they the red, or is it a subset of the red?
These are all red.
All red. This
All
is
red.
100% of the red road.
Yes, this is all the red roads.
Okay, gotcha. Yes, sir.
To clarify, those are mostly red. There are a couple of sections of Town East were the very lowest scoring yellow roads, but council's direction was red plus Town East. So it does bleed into the yellow just a little bit.
That's correct. That's those shoulder areas. We installed a 16-inch water line along Town East some years ago, and that has caused that road to slide in those sections. So that is correct. It is only labeled as part of a yellow road, but the repairs, they seem necessary to try to hold up and match the remainder of the road.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, the next slide is Planters Road. We did go out and seek prices from the developer on this, and they came back pretty high. So we're going to explore this again after the developer gets done with their part of the paving. And it turns out that was probably a smart thing because they're still cutting the road over there. So I'm glad we didn't do a lot of stuff over there. They're still trying to figure out some stormwater tie-ins and things like that over there. So they're going to replace more pavement than they thought originally anyways.
It says,
I want to just chime in on this one, is when we circle back to this, this is concrete as well. So we made at that point, if we get a much better price, just because, at the time that we bid out, Clay Road was kind of at the peak of the issues with concrete roads. So if we get a better price on this, it could be that we could roll additional panels into, from Clay Road into that and package it together. But we just didn't want to completely move on from clay just because it's concrete. We felt like we need to do those really bad panels now, but we will circle back around on that. It would have pretty much used our whole budget if we had done the whole thing.
I'm glad you didn't do it. So just on the second bullet, staff explored partnering with the developer. I thought, did we have an agreement or we just exploring?
Well, the agreement doesn't say that we have to use them, but that they're doing part of the road. There was a prescribed areas that they're doing, but it left a few areas not done. And so we were going to come in and do those areas so that the entire road got done. But the areas that they're not doing are the better areas. And so we were just hoping that we could get the whole road just kind of all new. And so we were going to fill in where they didn't, but it just was cost prohibitive. And so when they're done, we'll go back, we'll look at how bad the remaining panels are, and then we'll decide if we want to make more repairs, what will it cost us? So,
We had no agreement
well, we
as
have
part
an
of the
agreement.
380 that they will do it for us.
They are doing parts of it, but there were certain parts that they weren't doing. They had agreed to a certain number of segments, which they are going to do, but that does leave other segments that aren't getting done, and they're the better condition segments. So.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Should we get on that one?
Yes, sir.
Next slide. And the Trip Road grant update. We're still waiting on the COG money to go with that one before we can move on that. I don't know a whole lot about this one.
And on this, I put in my weekly update to you that we did hear from the COG that we can move forward with our contract with TxDOT. That was about 4 weeks ago. And they said, okay, we'll be back with you in about 3 weeks with the contract. We have not heard. I followed up with them via email last week, but I have not heard from them. So we're in the move ahead phase. We just don't have our contract done yet.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And then next, okay, routine maintenance. I know the council wanted an update on what we're going to do moving forward.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
On 3 big projects, right? One is the clay. The
Yes, sir.
second is the red and close to it. Then we have the trip. Is it feasible to estimate time frame, or that is too difficult of a
For Trip or clay?
Yes, for both.
For both. Okay. I don't. Trip is going to be contingent upon getting a contract for the grant.
Okay.
Once that occurs, I don't know if there's any stipulations on the grant whether or not we can start spending the money or not. But beyond that, Clay Road, once that bid closes, we can approve. We can bring that to council and have you guys approve a bid and release them for construction. I think that's 3 weeks on the closure for the bid.
So sometime in September.
I would think so. Yes, sir.
What's the estimated construction time, or we don't know yet?
It's going to require a couple of lane closures for this, especially installing the French drain. I think Lyle put in there 50 working days as the stipulation. 20 working days. It was 50. Okay.
So roughly 2 months-ish.
Should be one.
Yeah.
If it don't rain.
How about the red bucket? The red bucket. Yeah.
Oh, the asphalt roads. I don't know what the timeline we put in that one. That one's going to be more spaced out because if it's granted to one contractor, that's a lot of mobilization on those. They're not going to hit all those roads at the same time.
6 months, 1 year.
I would not think 6 months, and I certainly wouldn't think 1 year. I'm thinking 3 months.
So probably before the end of the year, we should be able to see.
We
all of
should.
it.
Yes, sir. I can't fathom them bringing all that equipment in and leaving again.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make sense. They would lose money.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Council had asked us to give them an update.
Can you go back to that one more time?
One more back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
On
here,
ru-
routine maintenance.
On routine maintenance and what we're going to do moving forward. The town has spent this year just on routine maintenance. This is outside the DMAIC. This is things we've done, repairs, potholing, concrete patching, and there's some other stuff, some lifting and even some sidewalk work has come out of this. But this so far we've already spent $181,000 this year on routine maintenance of repairs. For the fiscal year of 21-22, the routine maintenance plan is there's $595,726 for major repair and replacement projects and routine maintenance. Our thought process is we'll put $300,000 for routine maintenance, with $295,726 and excess reserves. I'm thinking we're talking about rollovers from this year if we have any, hopefully. for major repairs and replacement. Once the budget is finalized, we're gonna work some RFPs on IDIQ, indefinite quantity, indefinite delivery for concrete or asphalt. Just have a contract with a company. If we need to replace a panel, we don't have to chase a bunch of bids. We can just call that company. We already have a unit pricing contract. It's approved by council, and we tell them to just come fix it.
I thought we approved that concept and budget during the current fiscal year.
So you
I
approved
missed-
the concept, but we've been focusing on the DMAIC repairs first. So everything that we had above and beyond them going out and doing small repairs has been rolled into the DMAIC for this fiscal year.
Okay.
But starting this next fiscal year, we want to go to that process. So the excess reserves, and again, that would be anything over 120 days. We do believe that there will be, I've shared that with you in the past. So our thought would be in November when we do our true up that we would roll that money into the DMAIC account to add and just keep whittling away at that list of priorities. And that the 300,000, this kind of gets to the nice message that we got from the gentleman saying, don't send somebody, forgive me if somebody might be here. Don't send somebody with a shovel. Don't send one guy with a shovel. Well, that is what we do right now. We, use cold mix. No, cold mix,
Yeah, usually cold mix.
cold mix with the guy with the shovel, and they go out and they fill in a pothole so that it's not a pothole. So it doesn't mean we would never do that, but we would have a contract with somebody who could come do a cut, have the appropriate equipment to fill it in and smooth it. But in the immediate, we would need to fill those in just for the liability purposes.
But the
So-
message is right. We're taking a very detailed, thorough approach, looking at all the main streets, and also we are looking at the most efficient economic way to maintain the road. So we are looking from repairing, replacing roads, number one, and also just keeping it with the roads. That way the roads last longer. So
Right.
a lot of money is going into it. I think that's the right investment. So appreciate the council for stepping up and willing to spend that much money. Anything else, Brian?
That's it, sir. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council, any question for Mr. Creed? Mr. Allen?
Mayor Brown, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
On Clay Road, you're going to put a perforated pipe underneath Clay Road? Is that, it seems, I'm not critiquing at all.
No, it's okay.
It just always seems like that's a collapsible material over time.
It's going to be a design pipe. We have some under Town East currently. What is the road?
Dobson?
No, when you come the next one up, when you're coming out of town, out of Homestead, and it kind of goes up and makes a downhill spot. Right there, there's a house right there, and you always see a lot of water in that yard running off. There's already under drain all underneath Town East. We put in right when I first started because we had water erupting out of the middle of Town East, and so we had just overlaid that or not, rebuilt it. The county had just rebuilt it, and we had water coming out right between the two yellow lines. And so we went out there and dug a channel right down the middle of Town East, and then put like two H's off each side. And we put HDPE. It's design pipe that fits in there, and it just has a bunch of it has a filter that goes over. It's supposed to keep the dirt out, but it's just a perforated HDPE pipe, and it sits down in that hole, and the water seeps into there rather than erupting and exits out to the ditches. If you go out there and look, you have to know where to look. You'll see those little pipes sticking out. They're real long and skinny. Actually, it's not shaped round like a pipe. It's a long, skinny pipe. You'll see it in the ditch line, and those are weeping that water.
That's not that black flexible rolled, is it? That's the hard.
Yeah, it's a little harder. You could flex it if you pulled on it hard. But it's HDPE and it holds up great. We put it in gravel and it's worked good for us so far. I don't know that's the design that any particular vendor is going to choose, but it would have to be something of that nature. It'd be a design for that purpose.
Thank you.
Council, additional question for Mr. Creed?
Isn't there a natural spring right there where you're talking about? Because didn't a homeowner, they were digging a pool and they.
I don't know. Johnny, my predecessor, used to tell me all the time that was a swamp. That's what he'd always say. He said, back when I was a kid, that was a swamp. He said, I used to drive my truck through it. And he said, there was always water there. And he said, the county just came in and threw a road on top of it. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense if it's a natural drainage area of what we got. But it was definitely something going on of that nature because water is prevalent even during dry times.
Interesting.
What's your question, Mr. Clark?
No, I don't know if there's a spring there is the answer, but I do think there is natural water there for some, either it collects or erupts from the ground naturally. I'm not
I mean,
sure.
obviously, as we repair the road to understand if there's water continuously coming up, that's important to know. But
It is.
sounds like
It is.
we're looking at it. Is that current drain working?
Is the current drain on Town East?
Uh-huh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's done well. That was 5 years ago now.
Are there additional questions? Do you want to take public comments on this, Ms. Brenda? Okay, let me take it. I'm going to open up for public comments. If anyone from the members of the audience would like to come forward and speak to the council on item number 9, the DMI project or plan, you may come forward. If you are joining us via Zoom, you may raise your hand. No one is coming forward from the chamber. Eric, anyone raising their hands?
No, sir.
No hands raised. Council, additional questions or comments? Okay, Brian, thank you so much. Lyle, thank you so much for working. This is really big deal. We appreciate you. Okay, moving on to item number 10, Mayor and Council requests for future staff updates and agenda items. Council.
Mayor, I'd ask if we
Mr.
could get an
Mr. Finch?
update on the water meter project. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, if there are none, I call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Eldridge, seconded by
Second.
my clerk to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, signify. All opposed, motion passed 6-0. Mr. Jonathan Freeman is absent. Time is 7:47 and tonight's meeting is adjourned. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Thanks for coming and visiting with us. Good night.